Hello. Let me tell you. It's your girl, Dani. I'm coming to you direct all the way from Hampton, VA, 2 up, 2 down. And I am so excited to be here for our fall season 2021. It's been a long break, but Lord knows it's been well worth it. God has been speaking. He's been giving me so many creative ideas. And I'm looking forward for our lives to be transformed. Not because we're having Bible study, not because we're doing the quivering and the praising and all of that, but because we are taking God's word and applying it to real life applications. Because great praise is awesome. Worship is awesome. Great church is awesome. But when you go home and you still are living a defeated life, what was it all for? So I am so grateful that you all are here watching with us, those that are watching with us live, and those of you that will catch the replay. Boy, oh boy, do we have a season opener for you on tonight. Yes. All the way from 10 minutes away, I have my sister cousin here with me on tonight, Lord knows, and we are going to be pulling at your heartstrings. We are going to have a candid, real, raw, intimate conversation about domestic violence. And it hurts everybody. Everybody is affected. Everybody is affected by domestic violence. So I want you, get your tissue, get your typing fingers. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you can relate. If you have a question, get into the conversation. If you don't agree, that's fine. We're not here to kumbaya. We're here to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So like I said, it's Dani Direct coming to you. This ain't your grandma Bible study, and you are in the right place with Dani Direct. Yes. So after we have a couple of, promos, because we got to do that. We got to pay the bills, as people say. We're going to have a couple of promos, and I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to introduce our special guest on tonight, and then we're going to get into the conversation. So listen, do me a favor. If you do not already follow the Willing Workers Outreach Ministry on Facebook, WWOMVA, Willing Workers Outreach Ministry, VA, go on our page and follow us. We have some great things coming up. We have our prison ministry coming up, where we will be handling three different prisons. Yes, 3 different prisons we will be responsible for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we have adopted 10 families that we are going to support during the holidays. We also have our nursing home ministry that is blooming this October, and that's at Autumn Care in Chesapeake, Virginia. We have our hospital and greeting card ministry that is also going to be taking place. There is room for you on the team. And then this is the season where God begins to formulate, develop, and give us creative ideas for the Forgive Her Conference 2022. So we have a lot in store for you. Listen, I've said enough. I'll say a little more later on, but right now I just want you to get ready and get yourself prepared. Domestic violence, it hurts everyone.
If you need a good laugh, spirit lifted, heart or encouragement, you are in the right place for Dani Direct.
everybody. Welcome back to Danny Direct. Yes, yes, yes. I have here with me the beautiful, the talented, the intelligent, the passionate. I mean, I could go on and on about this beautiful woman that's sitting beside me. She is my big sister. She is one of my best friends, and she is Sonja Jackson-Lynch. That's right, all the way from 10 minutes away. I had to catch her before she tried to leave. But yes, I'm so grateful that she is here with us today. And we also have in the studio the inspiration, our heart, our love. My Aunt Gasoline, aka Aunt Carolyn, is here in the studio looking beautiful. We'll bring her in a little later on just to say hi to everybody. But I'm gonna let her, Sonja, tell you a little bit about herself. What would you like the people to know?
Hi, everyone. I would like you to know that I paid her to say all those good things about me. But anyway, I am her big sister. I am Sonja Jackson-Lynch. And I'm happy to be here. I'm thrilled that my sister is doing um, this type of networking, this type of collaborating, this type of outreach. I'm excited and I'm happy. So that's the gist of it. A little bit about me. I am her sister, but I'm younger than her. I'm also I'm a couple years younger than her. I do live up the road from her, and she did grab me to be on the show, and I'm thrilled and I'm excited. Um, a little bit about myself is I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm an auntie, um, and that's enough about me. Let's get right to it.
All right, all right. Yes, 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 yes. Listen, you can also catch us on at Dear Danny Direct. That's the Runita Danielle page. You want to follow that page as well. There's so many important things up here. Yes, Brianna, two beautiful women. Yes, yes. Hi, Bree. How are you? We love you also. We love you also. Listen, we want you all to get involved. If you have not already shared this video, we would like for you to share it. We would like for you to like it. And we would like for you to click the notification bell if you're watching us via YouTube. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We are multi platformed over here. We are. So let's get right to it because, I always want to begin the conversation a little light, but this is a very serious and pressing conversation that we are about to embark on. So, what I want you all to know is that domestic violence, 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 4. So, just think about your circle, your closest friends. Think about how much time you spend together, how much you know about one another. Is it possible that your friend is suffering in silence and you are unaware? That's something that we rarely think about, that your friend could actually be suffering, being abused mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically. And then don't forget spiritually, because there's spiritual domestic violence as well, or intimate violence. They change the name, but it's still the same results. 1 in 4. It's estimated that the annual U.S. health cost for domestic violence is $4.1 billion a year. $4.1 billion goes to the health care for women, men, and children that are victims of domestic violence. That's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Then you have, when I think about domestic violence, I often think about how so many times you are in a relationship and it seems so perfect. It seems so loving, the person is so gentle with you, and then all of a sudden they'll hit you and they'll blame you. See what you made me do? See how it's because of you. It's something that you did to make the person feel that way. Toxic people will always say things like, did he hit you? Because they don't feel like them calling you out of your name or being disrespectful or being aggressive is abuse. Then people will tell you, well, if you're not hit, you're not necessarily being abused. Mm-hmm. Because one of the greatest myths is it's only physical. The Reverend Willard Ashley, director of field education for New Brunswick Theological Seminary, says that there are so many variables with domestic violence that we haven't even uncovered yet. Because a lot of times domestic violence is also forcing your spouse to have sex. Even though you're married, you can still say no. So we're going to stick with the topic on tonight. But I just want you to know that it's not true that whenever someone gets angry with you and they have an outburst or they call you out your name and mistreat you, that it's your fault. It was something that you did or you upset them. None of that is true. So hopefully, hi Robert. Hopefully that will sink into you that there's nothing that you did that caused someone else. You don't have that much power or control over someone that you can cause them to abuse you. So, Sonja, I'm going to get you to jump in real quick. Mm-hmm. There's a temptation to think that domestic violence is physical violence. Mm-hmm. That's just one of the number of ways that one can look at domestic violence. It can be spiritual, economical, mm-hmm. sexual. It can be harsh critiques, toxic, harsh, and abusive language. It's the threat of what may happen. Mm-hmm. It's a way of saying you can't be in charge of your own destiny. Tell me a little bit about what domestic violence is to you.
So, you touched on many of the points of what it is. Domestic violence comes in many forms. One of the forms that I think goes unnoticed the most is the family side of domestic violence. Most of the time, the perpetrator, or most often the perpetrator, is usually a husband or, a lover, a boyfriend, girlfriend. But I think what goes unnoticed, and I know we're going to touch on this today, is when the perpetrator is someone you trust, and it happens to be a parent, and you are the child. Mm-hmm. And for me, in my experience, my mom, my siblings, the mental side of it, the emotional side of it was as taxing as the physical side of it.
Oh, that's good.
So we can touch on that.
Absolutely. Listen, 3.3 million American children witness and are victims of domestic violence in their homes every year, not in a stranger's home, not at the hand of a stranger, a visitor, a aunt or uncle, in their homes with their parents. 3.3 million children. And that's constant criticism, emotional abuse, threatening looks. It's the you'll never be good enough. It's seeing your parents, seeing the protector abuse the other parent, putting you in the middle of it. So many different things. Now, we have Sonja here. She's told you a little bit about herself, but she has not told you that she is a survivor. Yeah. She is a survivor. She doesn't just have an opinion. She has experienced firsthand domestic. Do you want to share any of that?
Sure, of course. So let me give you a little backstory if I can. So domestic violence is near and dear to me because, as my sister mentioned, I lived it. Not just me, my mother, and my siblings. We lived it. It was the 70s. It was a time when African American people were not speaking of anything that was happening in the home. It was taboo. It wasn't anything welcome. And it still has some of the same stigmas attached. But I know for a fact for the African American community, you didn't talk about what was happening in the house. You just didn't. For us, it was an unassuming thing because when you saw my family, you would have never thought. I came from a very good family. I came from two very good parents. My father, strikingly handsome, 6'2", handsome, curly hair, intelligent. He was a great leader. He taught us so many things about discipline. He had a great eye. He could see what we were before we saw it. He knew we were going to be athletes, taught us culture, all those things. My mom, a loving, sweet, giving, compassionate person. Those two people are my parents. Those two people brought us into the world. But it was those two people who were involved in the domestic violence. And we, the children, were also involved, and we saw it on a daily basis. I think the most telling part for us is that we lived in a neighborhood, a middle class neighborhood, and people could hear what was going on in the neighborhood, but they never mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was taboo to even talk about it. And my father was, you didn't mess with him. He was a big man. So you didn't want to challenge anything. You just pretended you didn't hear it. So, that was the biggest part, that it was happening in my household. And what we did was we suffered in silence.
Mm-hmm.
We suffered in silence because, for one, we were afraid. We were children. We
Right.
were afraid, and we did not understand. All we knew is that there was confusion in the home. Looking back now as an adult and as an educated person, a person with the background, psychology, all those woo-woo things, as a child, you didn't understand where it was coming from. All you knew is that your mother was hurting,
Mm-hmm.
physically and mentally. Your father had to be hurting somewhere, but he was the one doing the hurting. So I wanna make sure I'm letting the world know I had a great father. I miss him every day. He's no longer with us. But because he did not have those resources, those strategies, those things to help him, things that he went through as a child,
Mm-hmm.
came out in translation as abusive to us and our mother.
That's so good. One of the things you said is about suffering in silence. So oftentimes, people look at the outside. They see that you have this nice home, no physical abuse that they can possibly see. You're going to work. Everybody is functioning. The kids are going to school. All of these things are happening. There's no way that you truly can be abused. You have to be exaggerating. There has to be a little more being added to the story. But what they don't know is, just because you have the strength to endure the abuse does not lessen or devalue your experience, or it doesn't lessen the pain of your experience, because you not only witnessed your mom being abused, but you were abused.
Right. So, and again, looking at it from an adult standpoint, I'm able to understand it. And if I could do anything, I wouldn't mind going back to those times if I could, because now I have an understanding. What I didn't know as a child was where it was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So my father, a brilliant man, just a intelligent, brilliant man, had seen a lot of things that most people his age at that time had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a background where there was, for lack of a better term, there was aggression, there was violence. He had seen that so much. He met a woman who came from the other side of the tracks. She was a woman who was not of the world. She was very, a pretty, for lack of a better term, a kept woman. She was a church woman, my mom, a church woman. And so seeing her, he fell in love with her. The communication level wasn't there. You get this small town lady and this person who was from the city, and there was no communication between the two because they couldn't communicate. My father, not from the area, he had no family here other than his father, my grandfather, and so he often found himself frustrated. That was part of it. We know that now because it's been revealed. Also, some traumatic stuff had happened to him where he killed a little girl.
Right.
By accident, and he was exonerated in court. He did not go to prison for it. The little girl, she basically killed herself. She ran under his truck, but he never got over that part of it. And so instead of being able to tell what he was feeling, to talk to somebody about what he was feeling, when he became frustrated, it came out in anger. So this is not a time for me to bash my daddy, because my daddy, George Carver Gray, I love you to the moon and back, and I wish you were here. But this is an awareness time to understand that we, especially we African Americans and everybody, when you can't communicate and talk about how you feel, sometimes that's where the aggression comes out.
Absolutely. I wanted to stop right there. That's a good place to, as they say, parenthetically park.
Mm-hmm.
First, when you stated, that the different things that your father experienced, so many times we as people, I will say, regardless of the gender, regardless of race, economic status, intellect, all of that stuff, we are taught that what goes on in my home stay in my house. Right. Men don't cry. Women are. This is what your role is, and this is what I mean. We're taught all of these things, these generalizations, these stereotypes, and if you don't fit that, if you're somehow different from that, it can also lead you to becoming frustrated. Like you said, he came here, not from the area. Now, instead of being taught the skills needed to transition to a different area, you're just thrown out here and expected to survive. And though that works for some, not everyone understands or process or learns that way. Then on the reverse side, we're not taught to communicate. We're taught to argue, to stand up, to be tough, to get your point across. Be the person that knows it all, or even if you don't know it all, fake it till you make it. And so many times people are looked at as angry, they're looked at as aggressive, they're looked at as mean, but it's sometimes insecurity. Right. It's low self-esteem. It's a spirit of pride, in which we know pride is comes before the fall. Right. Because so many times you have pride because you don't know how to communicate how you're really feeling, and you don't want people to see a weakness in you. So you have what is the word I'm looking for? You have I can't think of the word, but their pride doesn't match. It doesn't match. And you know that because your responses don't usually match. Like someone could say, "What you want for dinner?" And you, "What do you mean what I want for dinner?" You start to blow up. Your emotions are all over the place. James says it like this: a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Right. And a lot of times we're taught to be double-minded. We're taught to be this way over here and this way over here. So you don't really know who you are inside. Now you're responsible for a family.
Absolutely. You hit on all the points. So to pick up where we were, Daddy, my father was a young parent with 3 children.
How old were they when they got married?
My mother was 22. My father was she's 2 years older. He was 20.
Okay.
And some of the frustration, my mom, bless her heart, has always had a plethora of health issues, and she had some childhood illnesses, and that was frustrating for him also. But what he couldn't ascertain is that this is the person you chose. You chose this person. So now she's your wife. You chose her to be yours. But instead of him being able to understand that, those things made him angry. So the more he became angry, the more physical he became with my mother, which in turn caused her to be back in the hospital. So much of our growing up life, she was in the hospital as a result of the mental and the physical. There was a point where my mother was paralyzed for a number of years. She could not walk when we were little. So all of these things, the children, those 3 children, were witnessing all of those things.
Are you comfortable with digging in a little
bit?
Okay. So here's one of the things. First, I want to shout out to Nicole Ball from Blythewood, South Carolina, Stephanie Gabriel from Waldorf, Maryland, Brianna Jackson from the DMV, Robert Lynch from 10 minutes away, And I just want to piggyback on some of the things that this Nicole is saying. There's also verbal and mental abuse, which we discussed. She said, I love what she is saying. She truly represented in her explanation that we should always try to understand both sides and herself. In all that getting, get an understanding. And then love and appreciate you cousins for sharing the stories, Stephanie Gabriel. And we have a Facebook user that says, Renita, you and Sonja are doing a great job. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your support. Please, if you have not already, like this video and share this video. It's so important. That's how we bust through the algorithms and more people can see the show. It's not about being popular. It's not about being famous. No. It's all about spreading the good news of Jesus Christ and letting people know that even though you go through, you are already an overcomer. Absolutely. He said you're more than a conqueror. So anything that you experience, you can overcome it with the help of the Lord. Absolutely. So, and we'll get to that. But I want to jump in just a little bit with some of the things you're saying. Okay. So we have these two young people. Yeah. Though they're from different walks of life, neither one of them probably was prepared.
Right, absolutely
for marriage.
And in many ways, if we're being transparent, in many ways, again, it's the 70s. So there's a lack of education. There's a lack of cultural knowledge. Although my father was very cultural, he made sure we rubbed elbows with the best. And you know, because you were the sister, the little sister. We were the Huxtables, the broke Huxtables, I could say, because no Black family in the 70s were playing tennis but us. And we hated it.
And Serena.
They weren't born, but you're right. We were them. Daddy, those are the great things about my father. He had a keen eye. He was before his time. He wanted his children to be better than him. And so he had us in the 100-degree weather. You were one of those children playing tennis. He also had us playing golf.
Right. Digress for 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going somewhere.
Go.
Okay. So unprepared for marriage. Now, not that they didn't love each other. No. This is the point that the first point I want to make. It's not about do you love or do you not love. Right. Just because you love does not always mean that it's meant to be.
Absolutely.
It does not mean that and it could be out of season. It could be the wrong time. It could be the right person, but at the wrong time because you haven't grown into who you are supposed to be. I got married at 18 and James was 20. We weren't mature enough to be married. We didn't know enough to be married. We just knew we loved what we perceived to be love. We love one another. But love will not always keep you from being disrespectful. Right. Love will not always keep you from cheating. Love will not always keep you from hurting. And love will not always keep you from spreading gossip, I'll say degrading, demeaning gossip about a person that you love. Now, Uncle Carver will refer to him because that's how I refer to him. He, like you said, was a great man. He was funny. I remember him being very funny, very witty, very charismatic. And he was your protector.
Absolutely.
So the same person that was there to protect you, you also suffered. He also was the one that hurt you.
Right.
So was there ever a time, because I've said this, who's going to protect me from you?
Right.
Was there ever a time where you wondered, well, he's my protector, so who is protecting me?
Good question. And I wondered that every day of my life and every night. And as being one of those children, I'm female, I have two siblings, male siblings. And every night that was my prayer, God, do you hear me? You know, I'm in here with my mommy and my daddy. My daddy's the one that's doing the hurting and my mommy's hurt. Where am I? What do I do? Have you left me? Did you forget about me? Those were my questions as a little girl.
And how many of us as adults have asked ourselves in whatever situations you've experienced? It may not be domestic violence. It may not be, like, who's here for me? Who's protecting me? Who is going to watch out for me? God, Do you still love me? Do you think about me? Those are things that are so important. One of the questions that I want to ask you, and then we'll get back on track. When I say on track, to the script. One of the things I want to ask you, you're the only, other than your mom, you were the only female.
Yeah.
Was the abuse different for you than your brothers? Was it worse? Was it better? I don't know how you can say better, but was he more gentle in the abuse with you, or was it equally?
So these are perfect questions, and again with transparency and honesty. So being the only girl, you would think yes, he was more gentle with me. The answer is no. Part of it comes back from the fact that my father grew up in a very chauvinistic mindset. To him, women were lesser, less than. He even made jokes about, I choose my women like I choose my horse, looking at their hips and see how their teeth are and what kind of hair they have, and that's the woman I want. He did not, again, we're talking about ignorance. He didn't know that that was not the way to be. So to answer that question, it was worse for me because to him, when he saw me, he saw her
Okay.
being my mother.
Right.
And I say worse, the mental side of it was worse because whatever name he was calling her, he was also calling me.
And how does that impede your life, or how does that affect you for the rest of your life?
It affects the rest of your life. It shapes who you are and it molds your thinking. My thinking was always skewed because of that. Before I got help, because we're going to bring this home. But during that time, to answer your question, my thinking was always linear. It was always skewed. And in the back of my mind, in the back of my smile, was always the thought that I'm not good enough. He said I was this. He told me I'll never be anything. He's abusing my mommy. I'm going in the bathroom and getting blood off of her, and I'm picking her up out of the bathtub. These are the things that he said to me as a little girl. So as I'm growing up, those things are remaining in my mind, even though I'm smiling through it. As a child, I was a very boisterous child as I grew up because there were things that I was good at. As you can tell, talking is one. So I was always able to express myself, but I wasn't genuinely always expressing myself. If any of my girlfriends are watching, and I hope they are, they will tell you that Sonja was the life of the party. She kept us laughing. She made us laugh. That was my escape. Stephanie is watching. We were very close growing up. That was my escape, to always be laughing and always be smiling. Why? Because inside I was always hurting. And my siblings also, but I'm speaking for me.
Right. Do you feel that you had to overcompensate? Like you couldn't just be good. You had to be great. You had to be the best. You had to show and prove your worth and your value.
That was another thing. So in our house, and I'm probably going to go off, you're going to tell me to digress again, but in our house, so Daddy was always good at seeing past what we could see. He knew that we were athletes. We were them fast grades that could run and do stuff, and we were athletic. That was our escape. My brother was a super athlete, my oldest. My youngest was exceptional. I wasn't too shabby as a girl. We always felt we had to be better because he told us, you're Black, we want you to be better. That was the positive. The other side was, if we do these things, we can escape. So by the time my oldest was 12, he was already on magazines. He was already at the time it wasn't the baseball, it was another name. He was already throwing balls at 85 miles per hour. He was all over everywhere because that was his escape.
His way of escape.
And so same with me. It was academics. It was this and that. That was my way of being away. Right.
And how long would you say, Nicole Ball said, it's all about the right relationships to have a good relationship with your spouse. How is your relationship with yourself? How is your relationship with God? Until people have that self-awareness, this will be an issue and has a domino effect in your life and those who are close to you. Absolutely. We sung that.
We sung
Yes.
it.
Abusers
Absolutely.
often seek those who fit in with the belief that drives them to do what they do.
Mhm.
Wow, Nicole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is powerful. And I know you have a story to tell as well, Nicole.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, and having witnessed what you did, what would you tell your younger self and your future self?
That is a great question. I would tell my younger self that this adversity that you're experiencing is for a reason. Because without this, you would not, I wouldn't have been seeking God. I would not have sought out the things I did to discover who I was as a person, and I still do that. Therapy is my friend.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that's not taboo for me. I know that it works. It drove me to go into psychology to try to understand what makes this stuff tick.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the things that I sought, and that's what I would tell my younger self, that all of those things are going to shape you into who you are, and it's because of those things that you are the rock that you are.
Mm.
But as a child, I felt as sweet as this, even though I never showed it. That's how I always felt.
What would you tell your future self?
I would tell my future self that life is good. It is not a series of unfortunate events. It is something to be celebrated and something to be lived every day. You're going to have those bumps and bruises, but there's so many things to appreciate. There's so many things to explore, and there's so many relationships to form. And it's okay to form those relationships, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. You can cry. You can talk about things. That's what I tell my future self.
That's good. And listen, if there are any men that are watching us, I want you to know big boys do cry. For so long we've told men that it's feminine, or it's men don't cry, men don't show emotion, don't show weakness. That is so not true. It takes a strong man to cry. It takes a strong man to be vulnerable. It takes a strong man to say how they're feeling and what their hurts and what their insecurities are. Because, if you don't, you're now putting that pressure, putting that responsibility on someone else. And that is going to frustrate you because they can't help you.
Right.
They can never help you. Nicole said, Nicole said, what the enemy meant for evil. Yes. God worked it out for my good. I applaud her. Yes, we applaud each and every one of you. Each and every, the one in the four. We applaud you. The 3.3 million children, we applaud you because you are a survivor. You are a survivor. Millions didn't make it, but you are one of the ones who did. And God kept you here for a reason. The word of God tells us in Revelations, I believe it's the 12th chapter, they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So if you are here, you have an obligation to share your story with others. And we'll get with a little later on what Sonja is doing to share her story and to give back and help others. Nicole said, God designed us to feel. The world tells us not to. Absolutely. Yes. Do you suffer any from any residual effects of this type of violence, and how do you cope with it?
So the answer is always yes for a question like that, because anytime you go through any event that's traumatic, there will be residuals, which is why I mentioned therapy, but my faith. So that brings me, because we're sisters, so we know where we came from, but the world needs to know my faith, my family, how I was reared and how I was raised. We survived. I mentioned how I survived, but we survived because other people cared. Mm-hmm. There's a family member who's watching this, and she's probably going to break down when I say this because I remember this. We were in our front yard, and my mother was in the front yard. And this family member, very close family member, drove by. Everybody loved Mom, so she was checking on her. And she saw her. Because we were we were afraid and we were told to suffer in silence, and we knew we had to save our mother, we thought, because that's what we were told. If you tell, I'm going to kill her. So this person said, I saw Carolyn in the front yard. Something's wrong. She's malnourished, and so are those kids. She told the family, being our grandmother, your mother, all the siblings, and nothing happened. They told my mom what this family member said, and she was so hurt. And my mother would always say to us, that's the part I wanted to bring in, because that's the hero in all of this. My mother would say to us, even though she paralyzed, couldn't walk, and all those things that happened, she would say to us, I'm staying here because I want my family together. But once I get up to here, I'm leaving, and I'm not turning back. And one day, we got up to go to school. She always wanted us to be on time. My mom had this thing about walking us to the bus stop so we could be the first in line. We didn't want that, because being the first in line would put us in the back of the bus. But she would get out there and she would fuss with the people. No, my kids were here first and blah, blah. So she put our clothes on. We're rushing, trying to get to school. Crestwood Elementary was my school that I was going to walk to. And she was just as calm. That's how you see the beauty of the Lord. Put your clothes on. I'm getting ready. But she was messing with our clothes like she would, folding up. She called another family member who was deceased, an aunt. And she said, come and pick me up. And we're like, okay, well, we get ready to go to school. And she said, no, you're not. I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back. All the furniture, all the things that they had accumulated, all the things. I remember her. She turned around. She looked. She didn't take anything. She got in that car, and she said, when she got in the car, I'm up to here.
Yes. Nicole, you're not taking over. She said not trying to take over with comments, but this session is so spot on, very personal. I love it. Absolutely. Yes. When I get up to here, I'm leaving, and I'm never looking back. And I'm so glad that she did. And let me tell you something. There are so many times that there's a strength that's inside of you that no house, no furniture, no car, no career, none of those things matter when your peace, your joy, your sense of self-worth, and all of that has been stripped, and you look around and you feel like, what do I have to lose? You know, I have nothing to lose. So it's better for me, and it's better for my children that I just walk away from it all, because I know that God can replace these things, but he can't give me another Sonja. He can't give me another Junior. He can't give me another Sean, you know, and I just admire that strength.
My mother was the strength. She couldn't see it because she was in it. But our strength, even though a lot of it comes from Daddy, my daddy was a strong man and all, but our inner strength came from her, because she knew the man upstairs from the very, very beginning, so much so that she didn't want to buy alcohol. She didn't never smoke, drink, none of those things. She was strong, even though she felt like she was weak. But I'll tell you something that sent her over the edge, and I'm probably sharing too much, but this is about, as you said, renewing of the mind. So the night before, she decided that something happened, and we were driving back to our neighborhood, to our house. My older sibling, who many of you know is a politician, he kisses babies, shakes hands, and he's a brilliant person and brilliant athlete, and both my siblings, wonderful people. We had visited the grandparents, and my oldest loved the aunties, your mother, the other aunties, and he was just a hugger. And he had hugged one of the aunties, and she said, "Oh boy, go away from here. Go on, boy." My father saw it and said, he didn't say anything at the time. He looked at us with that look, and me and my younger sibling were like, oh my God. So he didn't say anything. My father laughed and smiled the whole way till we got in the car, and we've never shared this, and so get your tissue. So we got out of the car, my mom, we were walking to the door, and he asked for my brother, my oldest, and he said, "Get in front of me." What I tell you about doing that? Haven't I told you about this? It was nighttime, it was dusk, the porch light was on, that's all you could see. He took his fist and he knocked him to the ground and he broke his nose. Blood was pouring everywhere, my mother running, my little brother looking like, oh my God, because he was so young, and me running to grab, trying to cover it because my oldest had this thing where his nose would bleed a lot anyway. Long story short, his nose was broken. The next day, because my mother didn't even want us to miss a day from school, she wanted us to be in school because that means we would have to stay home. Can you imagine going to school the next day, suffering in your silence and not telling that your brother's broken nose is not because he was playing sports. It's because your father broke it. We never told anybody. I never shared that until this moment.
You know, I'm gonna be honest, I can't imagine as a child.
Right.
Now I got whippings. Teresa was no slack on the whip. But I cannot imagine as a child with a child's mind, not only witnessing my parent being abused, but experiencing the abuse
Yourself.
because you don't have the skills or the words to even explain it, put it together. And even though you were in high school,
No, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So at that time, my brother, the oldest, was 12. We're stair steps. So he was 12. Me and my oldest are only a year and a few months apart. So I was about 11. And then the little one, if I was 11, he was about 8, maybe 7.
Yeah, it's Shavice Dunn gave hearts, and Nicole Ball said Michael says that peace of mind is priceless.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine that. But what I applaud you on is having the courage that you can speak about this now, and even though it will always generate feelings,
of course,
it doesn't have the power over you that it once did.
No.
And that's what this is all about. It's not just about, like she said, it's not about bashing. It's not about criticizing. Even though, now let me say this, we're not excusing, because I don't care what your situation is. That does not give you the right to put your hands on, to talk, be toxic and verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, financially abusive, or spiritually abusive. Nothing, no one does short of punching you deserves that. If you're that upset, leave.
And that was our thing. But again, we're looking through the eyes as children. We know that now. What we were experiencing, and me especially, was the love for our father and the love for our mother. Me being a girl, the natural attraction of my father, that was my first love.
Your first love.
But I wasn't his first love because of what he had experienced. Sure, he loved me. He thought I was beautiful, and until he got to the point of being angry at my mother. And this spiraled into my adult life. However, my feelings never changed because that was my daddy, my protector, and I knew that what was happening to me didn't mean that he didn't love me, but it was still hurting me, and it was hurting my mother. And so there was that weird connection between me and my mom, because me being the girl, whenever something happened to her physically, I'm going to come to the rescue. I don't care how much blood I'm looking at, and I saw a lot. I don't care the glasses that are bashed into her face and it caused her to have the glaucoma that she has now, and being thrown down the steps and all those things. I'm going to come to the rescue of my mom. You can drag me afterwards, but I'm going to be there with my mom.
Right.
And then there was other things too. So, yeah.
Looking at your personal romantic relationship, what behaviors have you noticed that you mimic your abuser and you mimic the victim?
Well, there are always going to be behaviors that you mimic as being the abused person. And I'm speaking statistically. Again, that was where my background came from, wanting to know why these things happen and how it will affect me later. So to answer your question, I'm always on 10. Actually, I'm always on 100. So because of what I saw as a young girl, I can't say never, but I will say those things won't happen to me. The difference between me and my mom, she was always soft and unassuming and timid, and that's what made her beautiful, and that's why she's beautiful. Me, I ain't soft and unassuming. I come off as that maybe in the workplace or in a relationship. If you come at me wrong, you're gonna have to kill me. So I'm always on 10 in that way. And to my detriment, because a lot of times that's not what's happening, but that is my perception. So the person on the receiving end probably is catching you know what, because I'm always in that mindset. What you said, don't, that's it, or any type of trigger. Those are my triggers, and so those are the things that I strive for daily, and I will be striving for forever, because that's the transparency of it. As far as seeming like the victim, I ain't never there. I'll never seem like the victim.
You haven't, there's no behaviors that you can see in yourself that remind you of your mom?
Other than being silent. I'm a very private person, not out of fear. The difference is my mother was private because she was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more private because I suffer from the residuals you mentioned, mm-hmm. of always the shame of mm-hmm. what people may say or what someone may think. Not that I live by those rules, or nor do I care. I don't really give a rap about those types of things, but that's the stigma that goes along with any type of trauma, which is why I seek therapy, mm-hmm. to get away from worried about, well, if I tell them that I done bust somebody in the nose, they might say she's insane, or that hasn't happened. But I'm being very transparent. Right. You know what I mean? So,
and I appreciate your transparency, because this isn't an easy conversation, and that's why it's unfortunate. That's why we're having it, because it's unfortunate that we're not speaking about this in the place that is supposed to lead us and guide us. Right. We don't speak about domestic violence. We're going to talk about that, what the Bible says. That's right. Going to be one of our weeks of conversation, because a lot of times people say if it's not adultery, you're supposed to stay married, So there's going to be more conversations, and then we'll bring everybody back at the end of the month for a panel. So you have to stay tuned for that, because we have so much in store. But one of the things I want to ask you is, what is the most valuable lesson that you have learned throughout this ordeal?
I think one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned is nothing that has happened to me defines me. None of those things that happen to me make me who I am. Those things help me become the person that I am, as far as being able to withstand. I'm a very strong person. I don't always feel like that. But as people that know me would agree, I'm a very strong person. You knock me down, I'm getting back up. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be down a little bit, but then I'm coming back. I learned that because I had to. I learned it because that's what my mother was. Physically, metaphorically, every time she was knocked down, she came back up. And so that's where I got it from. And that adversity, it shaped me. It helped me, it shaped me. And I want to mention this, Renita. I came from good stock on both sides, my daddy's side and my mom's side. Been around my mom's side more, but I came from good stock. And I mean that in the way that even though the family first of all, they didn't even really know what was happening until later. But our family was so close knit that I had escaped. My escape a lot of times was your mom, because you were little. There's a 5-year difference between us. Your mom,
she's older,
and she looks it, but I don't.
She's older,
but yes, I am older. But your mother, every Sunday, she would come to pick me up. Every Sunday, to go to the beach
or to the cemetery
for picnics. She would do that, and anything that she put you in, she wanted me to be in it. So those were the things, our church, we always were able to go to vacation Bible school or some type of escape, which we did up until we were 18. That was our life. And then not to mention my friends that I think are on this call. I have 7 or 8 friends that I've been friends with since I was 10 years old. They are all my same girlfriends. We talking 40 years later.
Mm-hmm.
One is a minister, one's a lawyer. I mean, educated, beautiful women. And they knew what was happening to me. At least 2 of them. One's a pastor, and the one that's a lawyer. They knew, and they love me more for it. We go on girls' trips now. Unless I bring it up, they don't bring it up. And then when I do bring it up, it's all love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I know for sure is that, and Nicole Ball, she teaches resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
She's a resilience instructor. I'm probably not saying it right, but one of the things that I know is that you definitely are resilient. I tell you in our own personal conversations all the time that there are some people that get dealt a bad hand. We just have to say what it is,
right?
And they never recover,
right?
And throughout their life, whenever something happens, they fall apart, and it's the end of the world, and
right.
It's always the biggest traumatic experience for them, and it's real for them,
right?
And you have truly been dealt some really bad hands. However, it knocks you down. It may even knock the wind out of you, but somehow you always end up back on your feet, and you always are better than how you first went into it. And that takes a lot of, like you said, inward strength. And though your experience was horrible, when he says in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for the good, he really means all things. And that's not how ideally you would have wanted to get those skills.
Exactly.
But he could trust you with an assignment. He could trust you. Ooh, Lord. He could trust you with that, because everybody can't be trusted with that. It's an axe murderer somewhere that had the same story as you. Absolutely. And I'm not being funny. There is someone right now that is contemplating blowing their parents' head off.
Absolutely.
Because of what they're experiencing right now that's so similar to what you experienced. And, we're just grateful and thankful to God that, you made it. All 3 of you made it.
We did.
Your mom made it.
That is the hero.
She is the hero.
And all of this,
Tell me, how have you, if you had to give it a word or give it describe it in a sentence or 2, how have you overcome being a victim and a witness of domestic violence?
Well, first of all, I had to see it for what it was. I had to understand that, again, like I said, what happened to me didn't define me, but I also had to understand what caused it, where it comes from, why people do it. Again, that helped me understand that my daddy was suffering from things that he couldn't speak about that was causing him to do those very things. I also became educated. I was supposed to go into journalism and be like my daughter and be on TV, but when I sat back and looked, I said, wait a minute, I came from dysfunction. I want to know where this comes from, because there's a whole bunch of other people that may be like me. So I went into I got my undergrad in psychology, graduated from NSU. Behold the green and gold. Yes.
Go Liberty Flames.
Go behold the green and gold. And so
Liberty
NSU. So I went into that with that mindset to understand what makes people tick in the way that they do, and to understand that just because they're ticking that way doesn't mean they're not good people. And let's find some resources that will help these people be different. So I went into teaching. I started teaching special education. Why? Because my students had some of the same backgrounds as me. And I could look in their face and say, Renita, come outside my portable, and let's talk about it, because I see it all over your face. And you would be surprised at the stories that I would hear. I had a little meal thing in my room. Some of them just wanted a meal. Some of them had been up all night. Some of them had gone through so many different things. So that helped me, because I could see myself in those very students. And so today, what I'm doing to give back is, there is I don't want to give the name of it, but there is a nonprofit in the Northern Virginia area. It is a center for domestic violence. I was in contact with them on a couple days ago, I'll say. After they do the background check, we will be partnering for me to help with some of those victims who just need life skills in the way of computer literacy. I have a master's in HR. People who need interviewing skills. I used to teach at the career college. People who just want to listen. Maybe they just want to wear makeup. Maybe they just want someone to donate some clothes so that they can go to their interviews. But why? Not for any other reason, because I was them. My mother was them. It's my due diligence to do that. It's what God requires.
It's what God requires. Yes, yes. Let's see what we have some comments that we did not. Nicole said there is a part of the brain called the amygdala.
The what? You're insane.
Amy G. Dalla.
Oh God.
That retains traumatic events. As we get older, certain triggers will cause it to recall the traumatic event, and we respond to it, and not always in a manner. So true. Yomi said, "Hello, ladies. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Hey." Nicole Ball says it's in the unconscious, but if you are aware, you can put strategies in place to prevent that from happening, like she did. Yes.
Nicole, I love you.
Yes.
You are in my head. Absolutely.
Yes. And then Yomi said, "Lord, the cemetery." Oh no.
Only Teresa.
And then she said, "I applaud you, Sonja Jackson-Lynch."
Yomi.
Yes. And Yomi has a story to tell as well. So many people have a story to tell when it comes to this abuse. Yes. And I'm going to I'm one of the ladies that will be sharing my story. One of the scriptures that I want to leave, because yes, we are saved on this show. We are saved.
Yes, we are.
Is Romans 12:17-21, and it is the Message Bible. And it reads, "Don't hit back. Discover beauty in everyone. If you got it in you, get along with everybody. Don't insist on getting even. That's not for you to do. I'll do the judging," says God. "I'll take care of it." Our scripture tells us that if you see your enemy hungry, go buy that person lunch. Or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good. And I know that is so much easier said than done. But what I want to leave you guys with, and I'm going to let Sonja have the final words before we close out, is that we can overcome.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that we need to overcome every situation, every temptation, every sin is placed inside of us once we surrender our lives over to Christ. So if you're struggling and you know that you have not given your soul over to Christ, then that's the first thing you need to do, because immediately you will be filled, indwelled with the Holy Spirit. And that Holy Spirit comes with skills. And then, because faith without works is dead. You can't stop there. You can't just stop with salvation. You have to go through sanctification, but you also need therapy. You also need counseling. You also need to develop life skills and mindfulness and all of these, like they're telling you, all these different strategies that will help you to become the person that God predestined you to become. See, we were born in iniquity, born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So this world has shaped us. It has molded us and made us into who we are today. Now we have to shed ourselves of those things, and that takes help. Just like you see the doctor for diabetes and headaches, you have to go and talk to someone when you're dealing with mental illnesses and traumatic events. God didn't create you to carry it. He said, give it over to him. Cast your cares on him. Leave it at the altar. But he created people, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, people that have the skills, that have the gift to be able to walk you through it until you're made whole again. So if you need glasses spiritually, go get them. If you need glasses emotionally, go get them. Yeah. That does not make you less than. It does not make you less than. What makes you less than is denying the fact that you need help. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. Nicole said it's pronounced amygdala. Is that what the water boy said? My medulla oblongata.
Nicole, enough said.
Yomi said he is a healer, And Yomi said, I go to therapy weekly. Yes, ma'am. I was in counsel for 10 years, but it's not about me. Thank you guys so much. Do not get off. Sonja is going to tell us how we can follow her. Mm-hmm. She's also going to leave us with some encouraging words. And then I want to remind you about the Angel Tree, the nursing home ministry, hospital and greeting card ministry. Follow Runita Danielle at Dear Dani Direct and the Willing Workers Outreach Ministry. We want to say, go Yomi. She is running for governor of the state of Texas. Yomi! She has Let's Grow with Yo-Yo that shows every Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern. So listen, we have so many people doing wonderful things. Yeah. We will be back. We will be back next week on, not Wednesday, on Monday. Next week, Monday, we will be back. All right, so I'm going to let you take it away.
So, guys, I'm so honored to have been here. I'm so happy to be here with this psychopath who is my sister, my little sister. I love her dearly. I'm so grateful for what she's doing and what the Lord is allowing her to do. My encouraging words are, find someone that you can put your trust in. He's there, but find an earthly person, find a mentor, find a pastor, find a church. There are people out here that can help you. If you don't want to go that route, then find a support group. They're everywhere, as I mentioned. And I'll tell you something. If you need help, therapy, it's not taboo to have therapy, as she mentioned. I've seen the results. And I've also seen the negative aspects of it lingering. My mother suffered in silence for so many years, and she has sought those things at an older age. Has she done it younger? She may have not experienced some of the health issues that she is, faced with now, but God is still faithful. He's just. And we know that it's through our faith that things will happen. If you have that little bit of faith, things will happen for you. So be encouraged. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Yes. And if we could you would you want to bring my mother in?
Yes, bring her in.
Okay.
While she's going to get her, I just want to remind you that this is a time of the year that the Willing Workers Outreach Ministry, we have our winter and fall initiative, which is the Great Cover-Up. The Great Cover-Up, I want you all to know, we provide hats, gloves, socks, and blankets that will help you, help the homeless, and we give it to them to cover up all of their extremities during those different times. Listen, God tells us to lend to the poor. He tells us that if we lend to the poor, it's like lending to him. He tells us that if somebody is in need, we're supposed to be there to help them out. You never know. Not everybody's on drugs. Not everybody has mental illness. Some people just had a situation to go, and all of a sudden they lost everything. We never know. Everybody is one paycheck away from needing someone to help them. So just keep those things in mind. Here she is. This beautiful lady is the hero. Wave at them. This is my mother. Look how beautiful she is. Look how beautiful she is. She'll be 78. I just 78. No wrinkles. None. Listen, please put some fire and some hands in the chat. We need some fire and some hands. If you're watching, put fire in hands. 78. Looking beautiful. Natural, all natural. Yes. God is good. This is a survivor. She is a survivor. Not only a survivor, but an inspiration. Yes, she is. True inspiration. Yes. Brianna said, beautiful and strong. Yomi put the hand clap. Robert put the heart. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. I'm telling you, you just don't know people's stories. You don't know what people have gone through, what they've experienced. So we always need to be mindful of that and always encourage people. Robert put a strong arm, a heart, and some lips. What are the lips for necessarily? I guess he's kissing. Right. Oh, my cheeks is real rosy. I'm rosé tonight. She's insane. I'm rosé. Everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You want to sit down? You want to sit, Mom? Well, no, man. Yes. Oh, he said it's for kids. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We love you so much. We're so grateful. so, so grateful, so thankful. And if you have a story, a domestic violence story that you would like to share, Mom has been watching and enjoying you all. Hey, Aunt Gerald.
Hey,
we
Aunt
miss
Gerald,
you.
we love you. I can say it now. You were that person who saw us in the yard. I'm telling it all.
We miss you, Aunt Gerald. We miss you
Yes,
so,
we do. We love
so
you.
much. Yes, we love you. We love you too, Stephanie.
Stephanie, always.
Yes, we love you.
Always.
But you know, Aunt Gerald is the one. She is the greatest of all time. She the GOAT.
She is.
Yes.
We love her.
Yes. My mom.
I still.
I don't know if she
That was
up
Aunt
here.
Gerald.
That was Aunt Gerald.
I'm not asking you where your mom.
I don't know where she is. Teresa, you up here, girl? I don't know.
She might be.
She might catch the replay. Brianna said, "Beautiful and strong."
Yes.
And then, awesome show. Nicole said, "Awesome show, beautiful." Nicole Ball, one of my girlfriends. She lives in South Carolina.
Can't wait to see you.
Yes, can't wait. You're supposed to be here in November. Okay, listen, I'm off track. We're going to get off of here. I just want to thank you guys again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your support. Please share. Please like the video. Remember the Willing Workers Outreach Ministry. If you're not following us, please go to our page. Remember Renita Danielle, if you're not following, please go to that page and like it and share it with your network. We are talking domestic violence for the month of October. If you have a walk in your community, if you have a support group in your community, if you have anything going on for this month, commit yourself to at least sharing one time with that group. Support those people because people need your support.
Yes.
We love you. We love you. And remember, you are in the right place with your girl, Dani Direct, Carolyn Gray, and Sonja Jackson-Lynch. We will catch you on Monday, same time, same channel. Yes. Bye-bye. Out. Y'all jam to the beat.